Welcome to Hispanic Biz Success Stories. I'm Homero Galicia. We have the pleasure of interviewing successful business owners to learn from them their story and why they built a business, how they built a business. So we're here to hear a wonderful story from a gentleman who built a wonderful business and is still building it, Mr. Julian Carrizal of Carrizal General Construction. Thank you, Mr. Carrizal, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate your story. So what is Carrizal Construction?
So we're general contractors. We do a variety of things. We do anything from landscaping, janitorial work. We do TIs, office TIs, concrete work. We do civil work, dirt work, government work, commercial work. Very little residential work.
So mostly commercial.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How long have you been in business?
So I've been running this business since 2005.
And how big is your business?
So right now we've got 35 employees. We're running about 15 trucks. So good sized company. I would say we're still a small business, but good size.
So how big are the contracts that you perform now?
So our contracts vary from $100 up to about $6 million.
Wow. And you're also, you just graduated from 8A, and you also received an award as 8A. 8A is a government contracting experience to help you get government contracts. And you did your 9-year period, and you graduated from that.
Right.
Now you're president of the 8A Association.
Right.
How did 8A help you grow?
So the 8A really just gave us structure, helped me put these contracts together and find the right people to run these contracts, get the right superintendents, project managers. That was a big help, and of course it helped us also to bid government work and how to find government work. It was a big step for us. We didn't have all that structure, so of course we're grateful we got into the 8A.
So you still do some government contracting?
Yes, we still do government contracting, but of course now we have to look for it and bid on it. So
yeah, well, government contracting requires you to have a bond to bond the projects, to cover the cost of the project.
Right.
So you've had to have bonding capacity. So how in the world did you start that?
So for my bonding, before I even thought about doing government work, I had submitted my financials to a bonding company, asking them for bonding, which they looked at my financials, gave me bonding, and that's where we started for there. My first government contract, of course, I had to use it for that, and we've just been growing it ever since.
So you have a large bonding capacity now. You have to have?
Right now, we're running $20 million worth of bonding.
So you can run several projects to cover that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, Carrizal is a well-known name here in terms of the construction industry. So you come from a family of construction people?
So the majority of my family, including my dad, my cousins, uncles, the majority of everybody they were painters here in El Paso. They painted most of El Paso when it was back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
I remember the name Carrizal Painting, right?
Yeah.
What was your father's name?
Same as mine, Julian. I'm Junior.
Okay, you're Junior. Okay, okay. And how many brothers and sisters?
So I've got one brother and two sisters.
Okay, okay. What neighborhood did you grow up in?
I grew up right off of North Loop and Lomaland, where I guess it was the Lomaland Drive-In was at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right behind it.
And so what high school, Isleta?
Isleta.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, so were you always thinking about business, or is that something that?
No, business itself, no. I think growing up, I thought more about money. So I was always looking for ways or places to work. So I worked with with my dad in the painting. I worked with one of my uncles, labor. I worked with another of my uncles as an electrician's helper. So just learned different phases of construction.
And you did that after high school?
No, actually I started when I was 13 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was just always out on the go.
Wow.
I wasn't one of those that sat at home and did nothing.
So, what was your home life like? I mean, your father was busy in construction. Your mother, was she stay-home mom?
My mom, she stayed home. She took care of us for the most part. My dad, I remember before he started on his own, he was working for another company. So he worked some jobs out of Fort Bliss. He was a superintendent. And then he went on his own and started doing insurance work, painting mainly.
So you saw him start his business?
Yes, I did.
What did you learn from your parents?
So my dad was a hard worker. He worked really hard. I learned that it took a lot of work to get what you wanted. I just saw it a little different. He was a good salesman. He was a really good salesman. That was his main thing. He could sell a job. He just didn't have like I say now, the structure. He knew how to run the business. He knew how to get the jobs. He just wasn't really good at running bigger crews or bigger jobs, I should say. He was, I don't know how to say it. He was, I guess he just didn't think the way I did, for the bigger jobs.
So, I guess that's intimidating to a certain extent.
Yeah, him and I had, like I say, had different ideas. I wanted to grow, and he was a little more leery of growing. He was, I guess, didn't want to take that next step.
Interesting. And your mother, what did your mother teach you?
So my mother was a stay-at-home, so I was always there. I was really the only kid that got up early in the morning because my dad would leave early in the morning, so my mom would be up at 4 in the morning making tortillas and making my dad breakfast. One of the things I enjoyed was getting up in the morning, getting the first tortilla with butter. Yeah. It's funny because from her I learned how to cook.
Oh, really? Oh, she taught you? That's
Yeah. So when growing up, I did a lot of that. I learned how to cook different things, and of course when I got married, I ended up doing the majority of the cooking.
Yeah, interesting. You're married?
Yes.
How many years?
30 years now.
Wow. Your wife's name?
Norma.
And she works with you?
She works for me.
And children?
We've got one named Alexis.
Okay. Yeah, I've met your daughter.
Yes.
Fortunately, she's taken my class at UTEP
Yes.
in Hispanic entrepreneurship, so
Right.
looking forward to that. But so out of high school, you just went to work?
No, when I got out of high school, I tried UTEP for a little bit. I went probably 2 semesters, and for me, I wanted to go into work. I wanted to start making money. So I went ahead and dropped out, and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. So from there, I went to electronics school, graduated out of there, learned electronics. And then after that, I went to a computer school and learned some programming and how to repair computers. And I thought actually that's what I was going to be doing. So I was 22 when I opened up my own computer business. It was called Microfix.
Oh, okay.
And I had it on Montana. I had that for about 2 years. And we were doing okay. I did a lot of work. I did work for UTEP, fixed a lot of their printers, those big bulky printers they had, some of their computers, the gas company. Well, anyways, I sold that about a year. About after the second year, I sold it and came back to construction, where I started.
Because that's what you knew. So what are you good at in construction yourself?
So in construction, I started from the very bottom. I started as a regular laborer. I learned how to paint. I did a lot of framing on homes. I used to help carpenters build cabinets, drywall. I did everything. I did electrical. I did plumbing. Heating and cooling is the only thing I never really got into.
So you know all the trades.
Yes.
So did you work independent for a while?
So no, actually I worked with my dad up to about 94 is when my dad passed away. And in 94, I kept his business going, and my sister was helping me. And then in 2004, I decided to go a different route. So I went ahead and I started this company that I've got now, and I went straight commercial. Before this, I was doing residential work.
And so you left painting.
Yes.
Why?
I wanted to grow. I wanted my business to grow. I wanted to have what I would see out there. I wanted to have the trucks. I wanted to have the location. I wanted to have the name where everybody knew what I was doing. And I just always enjoyed that.
Like where you're at now, you own the building at
Yes.
1070 diesel?
1070 diesel, yes, sir.
That's your lot, and you built that.
Yes.
So what drove you? What was it that was driving you?
I've always liked construction, and I wanted to grow with it. I wanted to make it successful. I wanted to be different than the rest of my family. Most of my family was successful. They did really well. I just wanted to do the same or better.
And so when you started, did it take a lot of money? What did it take?
So when I started on my own back in 2004, I had a friend of mine that owned a restaurant. My first job, which at that point, I didn't even know what I was going to do yet. He offered me a job to help him remodel his restaurant. And I said, well, I'm not doing anything. I'll help you out with it. So as I was helping him with it, we went through the whole thing. I finished his project. It was a small project. It took me about 2-3 weeks to get it done. He wrote me a check for $4,000 and said, here, thank you, for helping me. So I said, great. Well, he introduced me to his sister-in-law, who was an architect. And he introduced me to her, and she asked me if I would quote a job for her at the airport. And I said, sure, I'll quote it. So I put that bid together. It was for the El Paso Chili Company there at the airport. And I got the job. She said, okay, it's yours. So we did that project, and that was a really good project. We had a bunch of change orders. It turned out really nice. Well, at that time, I was doing some real little jobs for the Catholic Diocese. And my jobs at that time for them were $10,000, $20,000. They were nothing really big, but I had made that relationship with the property manager on that one, and he had asked me if I was interested in remodeling a building at 2400 Yandale, big red brick building. I said, sure. So again, he gave me the drawings, and I bid the job. He gave me the job, and that job was good-sized job. For me, it was a big job. It was $220,000. For me, that was a huge job. I had never done anything that big. So I took it on, I did the job, and he paid me, and I made some really good money. From there, I just started meeting more and more people. I met people in the commercial industry, and just from there, I met property managers, I met brokers, and I started bidding a lot of their work. And for a few years, my biggest jobs were not more than $100,000. It's as big as I could get. After about, I think in 2008, I picked up a job for $750,000, and it was a good job. And I did that one. After that, I just said, I'm going to keep going and going. And
wow. So how did you handle those bigger projects?
I knew a lot of people growing up. I had met a lot of people, so most of my work was subcontracted out. I had 2 guys that were working for me. I had just had the 2-man crew, and we did as much as we could, and then everything else I would subcontract out.
So you know how to bid and you know how to subcontract.
I learned how to bid from doing the work. So I knew how much time it took, and I knew how much the materials were.
Okay.
That's how I learned how to bid.
Okay. And you're still good at it.
I still do it the same way.
Yeah.
Most people now have spreadsheets, or they use the computer, they use programs. All of my bidding is done on paper and pen, with a paper and pen.
Because you still know.
I still break it down.
Okay,
I break it
that's
down in time and material.
And big projects like that? I mean, you get big projects.
I still do the bigger ones the same way.
Really?
I break them down.
And have you made mistakes?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've made a bunch of mistakes. But you learn from them. Luckily, I was lucky. The mistakes I made weren't that costly. One of the mistakes I made was, big mistakes, was hiring an estimator and kind of trusting him with what he knew. And that's where I lost money on one of my projects.
So he underestimated.
Yeah. So now I look at everything that goes out.
So do you have an estimator now?
Yes.
But you check?
I check everything that goes in and everything that comes out.
But But you know the numbers.
I know the numbers.
Do you know the numbers in your business besides the bids? I mean, do you know what comes in, what goes out? You pretty good at that?
I do. So what I look at all my bank records that come in. Of course, all my bank records go to my house. Nothing goes to the office except regular mail. All my bank information goes straight to my house.
Wow. Why is that?
I don't trust people anymore like I used to.
Have you had?
Yes. I've had problems with accountants.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So now, like I say, everything goes to my house. When it comes in, I go to the office in the morning. I sit there with my cup of coffee and I go through all my bank statements and everything else. Double check everything.
You double check.
Yeah.
And you've caught mistakes.
I used to, not anymore. Right now, I've got some really good people. I got some really honest people, and.
But you hold people accountable?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So we have our meetings. We try to have 2 meetings a week. One is with of course, my superintendents, my project manager, and my other meeting is with accounting. We try to go over everything, see if we can make sure that everything gets invoiced, make sure everything is accounted for.
So what's your large project today?
Right now, I'm kind of, right now I don't have too many large ones. I think the largest ones I've got right now are about 200,000. Those are the largest ones I've got. I just finished one. We just turned it over Monday. That whole job with change orders and all was a little over $6 million.
Wow, big job.
Yeah.
So you're waiting for your next $6 million job.
I'm waiting for my checks.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. How long does it take to get you?
Usually within 30 days I get paid on everything.
Yeah. But until then you're holding the bag, right, I guess?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Wow. Because you've got a lot of employees you got to pay.
Got a lot of employees, but like I say, we do really well. We always have, I don't count on just one job. So normally we'll run in about anywhere between 5 and 10 jobs at a time.
Wow. Well, let me ask you, we're in a situation where we're still in COVID, kind of coming out of a couple of years of COVID. How did you survive the COVID?
So when COVID first hit, I was really nervous about it because I didn't know what was going to happen. None of us did. So my first reaction was, we're going to have COVID, we're going to have to start disinfecting. So my first reaction was, let's go ahead and get chemical. Let's start getting equipment to start spraying, start fogging. Originally, it was just for us personally. And I thought, well, we might as well extend the business. Since we have janitorial anyway, I go, we could make it part of janitorial. So I got on the phone. I called this guy up on one of the chemicals that we use. And him and I started talking. And it was on a Sunday morning when I called him. I called him at home. Wow. So we talked about the chemical, and he was asking me questions about the equipment that I have to use with the chemical. So we talked back and forth, and we talked about mixing and everything else on it, and how it works and how long it's good for. So then at the end of the conversation, I asked him, okay, what do I need to do to be able to either buy this or become, part of your company, a dealer or something? He goes, well, you've already passed everything. He goes, we already did the interview. As of now, you're a dealer for the chemical. So I became a dealer. I bought all my equipment. I had some of my equipment already. So I bought some more equipment. We ordered chemical, and we started bidding or letting everybody know what we were doing. So the people that I knew that trusted me started asking me for quotes on how much it would cost to disinfect their offices and how many times we would have to do it a week. Gave them all that information. Then they started asking me for quotes. I started putting the quotes together, and we picked up a lot of work. A bunch of work that first year, and that kept us busy the whole year.
Wow, so that worked out. So how in the world did you get into janitorial?
So janitorial it just kind of landed in my lap. We were doing construction at the time, and my wife was working at the hospital. And property managers that I work with asked me if I was interested in doing janitorial because they needed people for janitorial. And at the time, I told them I really wasn't that interested because I was so busy with the work that they were giving me already. Well, they asked me to go ahead and think about it for a while and let them know. So when I went home, my wife and I we just started talking about it. So she asked me, do you think it's something I could do? I said, sure, why not? How difficult can it be? So I went back and I told the property managers, yes, I'm interested. So they asked me to quote some jobs. I put it all together, and we got into janitorial.
Wow. And that was early.
That was 2007, first
Wow.
contract for janitorial.
And you still do that.
And I'm still doing it.
And so besides construction, are there other things that you do, or they're construction related?
Everything's construction related. You know, like I say, my janitorial, we do some landscaping, some irrigation. I haven't really hit on it really hard, but we're doing some of that as well for some of the same people. We do concrete polishing as part of our construction. Of course, we've got, I've got, you know, we do just anything that has to do with construction.
Yeah. So what are your biggest challenges today?
Biggest challenges is finding people. The hardest part right now, it's hard finding people and keeping them.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if it's because of COVID, and I'm sure COVID has something to do with it, because that's when all this started. The first year of COVID, we were doing fine. Nobody was leaving. Everybody was good. But now, for whatever reason, we're just having a hard time getting people in.
Yeah. Well, I guess everybody is.
Everybody is, yeah.
Having a hard time. So it's hard for you to. The other thing is project materials cost more now, and delivery time. So your business has changed.
It has.
So how do you meet those challenges?
It's really hard. So now what I'm doing a lot of is ordering the materials. I used to have, my subs used to order everything, but now I have to be in control. So in order for that to happen, I'm ordering a lot of the materials now. So that way I'll know for sure what's going on.
What do you mean you had to be in control?
Well, what happens is I bid a job, if I bid a job and of course we have a certain time frame to get it done in, but what's happening right now is materials are being delayed. So with me ordering the material, I can follow up myself and know exactly what's going on. For instance, I've got one where I've got some chemical coming in, and it was ordered 3 weeks ago, and it should have been here 2 weeks ago. And I've been following up on it. Finally, hopefully I'll get it in tomorrow. But so it helps, because when the customer calls me and asks me what's taking so long, I have the right answers for them. I don't have to rely on my subcontractors to tell me what the problem is.
So in growing your business, what did 8A help you do?
Like I say, they helped me structure the company. They helped me find the jobs that were out there through the government.
Did the SBA come in and help you structure, or did you?
No, actually what they did is they have a bunch of seminars, and you go to these seminars, you go to these meetings, and at those meetings there's always speakers, and speakers that are there will actually help you or tell you what you need to do to, what people you need for what positions and how they're going to help you, and that's how we got it.
One of the issues, I guess, with government contracting is your accounting changes.
Yes, accounting changed quite a bit. So when I first started, I was actually the accountant as well.
Wow.
It was really hard, because I did the estimating, I made sure the jobs were getting done, and I also did the accounting. I always had to make sure that everything got billed and got paid. That went on for about a year. We grew really fast our first year.
So now you have an in-house accountant?
I have 2 accountants.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But you still make sure projects get done?
Yes. So I've got a project manager, I got superintendents, but I'm always out in the field. I always verify that everything is being done the way I want it done.
But your people know how you want it done too?
Yes, yes they do.
So you like what you do?
Yes, I do.
What is it you like most about what you do?
What I like is I like to see a job from the very start where we have nothing, and then we finish it and we have something really nice, and then the customer is happy. So the majority, I would say about 99% of our customers always come out happy. There's always that 1%.
We've been sharing that you're in general construction. You just finished a $6 million project.
Right.
Looking for the next one.
Yes.
And you have a yard and a building on diesel, 1070 diesel. And besides construction, you do some other things as well. Under construction, what kinds of things are those?
So we have the janitorial, that we're doing now. We do some landscape, some irrigation. Of course, we do some concrete polishing and just everything that goes with construction, anything that has to do with it.
So the biggest kinds of work you do are what?
Right now, for us, I think the biggest jobs that we're doing now is dirt work, earthwork. I think those are the biggest things we're doing. We are doing a lot of course, commercial work, a lot of remodeling, a lot of new construction as far as in the office buildings and that kind of work.
Okay, so you're constructing those things.
Yes.
I know that you had mentioned to me that you had a big project at Fort Bliss with a lot of earthwork, was that?
Yeah, we just finished that one up. That was out in Doña Ana Base Camp. Did a lot of earthwork out there.
What is that like, out there in the middle of the desert?
Out there in the middle of nowhere. It was interesting. It was a good job. It was a really good job. Actually, I was out there probably about 90% of the time.
So 90% of the time?
Yes.
So how'd you run your business and run the project?
Phones and computer. I carry my phone with me everywhere I go. I answer my phone. I answer all my calls. Computer, I just have it with me. And
well, you're pretty good with computers because you had your own computer business?
I did. Learned a lot from it. Of course, computers were way different then.
Yeah. So that's what you started in, I guess, right?
Yes.
Many years ago. So your business is how many years again?
I started my commercial business in 2004.
And again, the Carrizal name is well known because your father was Carrizal Painting.
Right, right.
And I guess all your family, right?
All my family, my uncles, my cousins, they were all in painting.
So you grew up in an entrepreneurial family?
Yes.
So do people learn to start a business? Are they entrepreneurial or is it grown?
I think it's grown. I don't think it's really interesting. I mean, I guess it just depends on what you want to learn. You know, there's a lot of people who just want to work in the business and do some of the work, and there's people that want to run the business. I actually I did both. I worked in the business, and now I work on the business.
How did you learn how to do that?
So, starting out, of course, I started out with my dad in painting, and didn't like painting, but I had no choice. I didn't have anything else, so I was doing painting. I did some regular labor work. I worked one of my uncles as an electrician's helper, and like I say, construction with the carpenters. I worked with just everybody, and I learned how to do all that work. So when it was time for me to, it was time for me to start on my own and do my own thing, I already knew how to do all the work. So when I hired the people to do some of this work for me, I already knew how much time it should be taking. So if they were taking too long, I was able to tell them they were taking too long, and I could explain to them why they were taking so long. And of course, I learned I had to buy materials, so I knew what the materials were costing.
Let me ask you, one of the things that I've noticed over years is a lot of people say, oh, I can do that job. I can paint that building, right? But we were talking earlier, there's people who paint, and then there's painters.
Yeah.
What's the difference between?
Anybody can throw paint on a building.
Yeah.
Anybody can. But a painter can make it look good. You know, your lines have to be nice and straight. The guy with the brush has to be really good and make all the straight lines. The guy who's rolling or spraying has to know how to roll or spray. Otherwise, you're going to see every stroke on that wall. You'll be able to tell that it wasn't a painter.
So what is a complete job to you?
A complete job is a job that at the very end you're happy with it. You feel you can put your name on it and say, I did this. Those are the type of jobs that I like.
So you do that to every project you do?
Yes. My guys will tell you, I go to a job site. If there's something I don't like, I'll make them redo it. If I have to tear it down myself, I'll tear it down. And
really?
they'll see that. Yeah.
So what is your standard?
Everything we do, I like to do it as if it was for me. It's like I tell all my guys, if you will accept that at your house, more than likely it's good enough for your customer. But that's not always true. I've seen some of the work that some guys do, and I asked them the same thing. Would you accept that? And some of them, I've had people that would tell me yes. And I'll tell them that's not what I like.
So you do a project as if it's your own house?
Yes.
even if it's a commercial building.
Yes.
So how do you learn how to build a business?
So building the business was, I did it a step at a time. I did it slowly. Of course, when I started, I actually did some of the labor. I did the estimating. I did the accounting. And luckily, I wasn't real big when I started. I started out very small. So if I did a job for $5,000, I knew I had to collect it. So I would do the invoice, and I would stay on top of the collections. And at that time, when I first started, I didn't do a whole lot of jobs at once. So I could keep track of how many jobs I was and how much they owed me. So it was real easy to do my accounting. Most of my accounting was done in my head. I already knew how much my customers owed me. So as we got bigger and bigger, I hired somebody to start looking at that, but I always kept an eye on it until we started growing so much that it was hard to keep track. I had to find better people and more people. And
So now how large is your office staff?
office staff, I've got eight in my office right now.
Wow. Covering what kinds of?
From accounting, I've got contract compliance, I've got my HR, I've got my receptionist, and then I've got 3 estimators in the back.
So you get a lot of projects.
Yes, we're starting to bid a lot more projects now.
And you got superintendents out there in the field, and
Superintendents, project managers, foremans.
you got a big operation.
It's done well.
So how do you learn to do that?
So what helped me a lot on that was the 8A, of course. They helped me structure all that, because doing government work, one of the things that we get asked for is, of course, quality control. We're asked for superintendents, for project managers. So before I got into 8A, I mean, I knew I've always known what a superintendent was. Superintendent is just somebody that oversees the whole project. I wasn't sure what a project manager was. Contract compliance, I didn't know. I didn't really know much about that portion. HR, forget that. Didn't know what HR stood for. Accounting, I always knew what accountants were. So I learned all that through the government work. And when I first hired my first administrator in the office, she actually kind of told me who we need and stuff like that. So by going to the seminars, I learned what the role was for each person. And that's how I figured out who I needed and for what. The hardest part was trying to find these people and do the interviews, because when I was doing the interviews, I didn't have the right questions, because I didn't know enough about it. But growing up, I've always enjoyed learning. So if I didn't know something, I'd get on the internet and look it up and try to figure it out.
And you still do?
And I still do.
So what is your big challenge today?
Finding good people that want to work. Right now, the people that are out there, a lot of people that are out there just are interested in their next dollar. They're not interested in helping a business grow or growing with the business. I've got people in the office now that not only want to see the business grow, but they're trying to grow with it, and they are.
So what are you really doing? You're providing people some good jobs.
Yes.
And some livelihoods.
Yes, yes.
So in growing, is depending on finding the right workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see that your growth means? What does it mean to grow your business?
So growing the business, we're trying to. So my contract compliance person in the office, she every year she sets up the goals. Okay, this year we did this. Next year we're gonna do this, and she's the one that really motivates everybody. She sends me everything and any jobs that are out for bid, and she'll ask me, are we going to bid this one? And so I'm the one that's looking at all this, and then when I say yes, I pass it out to my estimators, and if it's something that I'm going to bid myself, I'll just take care of it myself, and I'll tell her I'll bid this one. She'll do all the paperwork for it, and it works. It works.
So you're not afraid of paperwork?
I don't like paperwork, but I'm not afraid of it.
But you had to grow.
Yeah.
So the SBA helped you a lot in growing through you graduated from 8A.
Yes.
It's a 9-year program. They help you get government contracts. You learn how to do that. Now you're not utilizing that anymore because you graduated. You've received some awards from 8A, right?
Yes, I got 8A Graduate of the Year for the regional. I got that 2 years ago. I had no idea when they came and presented it to me. But yeah, we've learned quite a bit from it.
And now you're president of the 8A Association.
Yes.
Which is other government contractors.
Right, there are other government contractors. They're here. Basically what we do is we try to help other contractors in the community and also the people who are in the 8A, going through the 8A program. It's really interesting.
So in growing your business, Mr. Carrizal, what relationship? What was the relationship you had with banks?
So with the banks, my first relationship with my first bank, it was really difficult. The first time I went in there, the banker that I had met had told me, it was funny, they warned me about my account. They said, if you bounce any checks, you do any of this, we're going to throw you out. I said, okay. So I opened up my account and never even got my checks when I switched banks.
Really?
It was really strange the way I switched banks. I met this guy out. I was at a friend's business and we were talking, and one of his friends walked in who was on the board of one of the banks, and he came in, introduced himself, and he told us if you ever want to switch banks, here's you need to go over here and do this, and he spilled his speech, and I thought about it. So a couple of days later, I went down to that bank and talked to them there and told them who I was and what I wanted to do. And they were a really good bank. They said they'd work with me, so and they did. When I got my first check, I went to that bank and told them I needed a big portion of that check to make payroll and pay my subs. And most banks will put a hold on your checks. He didn't hold it all for me. He said, you know what, I'll let you take so much money out so you could pay the people you need to pay. And after that, it was just a great relationship.
How important is that?
Very important. With that relationship, of course, I got my line of credit. With my line of credit, I got my bonding. And of course, with my bonding, I was able to bid more jobs. So it does make a huge difference.
So how big a job can you bid now?
I can bid up to a $20 million job if I want.
That's pretty good.
One of these days.
But that's a discipline you had to learn to build a bonding capacity. What did you have to do to build a bonding capacity?
One of the things that I did, everything the company made as far as when we profited on our jobs, I left it all in the bank. I'd say for maybe the first 2 years, I took out a minimal salary, just enough to get by for the first 2 years. I just thought, I want to build my account. I want to build my company. So I built a good account. I had a good amount of money in the bank, and from there, the banker, of course, saw that I was leaving money in the bank and not just taking all my money out. So with that, I started growing, just seeing jobs growing. And because of that, I was able to finance my own jobs.
Wow. So have you maintained that lifestyle?
I have most of my money in my account still, my commercial accounts. It's still all there. I pay myself a salary. I pay myself just a decent salary.
Well, so the relationship with the bank is important. The way you manage your money is important. What else is important in building a business?
People. You got to have the right people. That's the hardest part. Is finding
Have you made mistakes with people?
Oh yeah, lots of them. It's funny. A lot of people are really good about talking themselves into a job, but to keep it is the hard part. If you're going to talk yourself into a job, you got to know what you're talking about. Some people come in and they talk a good game, but when it's time to play,
Can you see that early, or do you learn that as
I'm
time?
starting to. Talking with people. I'm starting to be able to read them a little bit better, where I can tell if they know what they're doing. Of course, their resumes make one of the first things I look at is their resume, see who they work for. I follow up with the phone calls with the previous employees.
Are there projects that you turn down?
Very few. Very few.
You can do most projects.
Yes.
Why would you turn down a project?
I think the only reason you would ever have to turn, well, you know what? I don't even know why you would turn down a job. Like I was telling you earlier, so there's some jobs that I had bid that didn't know anything about, but I'd get on the internet and read as much as I could. My first big government contract was repairing the airfield at Biggs Airfield, Army Airfield, and it was all concrete. When I first got into this, when I first got that first contract, I didn't know much about concrete. I didn't know, the strengths of concrete, why. I didn't know why you had to add water, why you didn't have to add water. I didn't know anything about concrete. I had to learn it because it was a nice contract. I didn't want to let it go. I had people that were telling me not to go after it, that it was too big of a job for me, too big of a step. And I said, no, I want to do it. I go, I'm going to do it. So I met some people, and we formed a team, a really good team, and we bid that job, and we put all the numbers together, and between all of us, we had our meetings, we discussed everything on it. I learned as much as I could about concrete, and then of course the people I had, they helped me with the structure of my important key people.
So you're not afraid to learn?
No, not at all.
Is that key?
I think it is. I think it is.
So how do you balance work and family?
That's the hardest part, I think, for me. I've always been the type, I always got up early. I was always up 3, 4 in the morning, and I was always the first one at the office growing up. I was the last one to leave. And now I changed that a little bit. I get there a little later and I get home a little earlier, but it's really hard because as we're growing, of course, we still have the growing pains, and it's hard to not take them home. I try not to, but every now and then they do follow me.
How do you handle that?
I don't think it's that easy. Of course, I get home and sometimes we talk about it, and it gets a little frustrating because I try to forget it, and it just comes back and haunts me sometimes. But we just do the best we can.
So you've grown your business up to a level to where you're a pretty stable, pretty strong business.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I want to take another step, and I'm thinking of actually going after some bigger contracts now. I've got the bonding for it, so I've got other estimators now involved, hired some new ones. So that's probably our next steps, is just bid some bigger jobs.
Projects,
Yeah.
and you're not afraid of it. So what was the key to your growth? We talked about the 8A program helped you build structure. Was that key to your growth?
I think it was it had a lot to do with it, but a lot of it was, I've never been the type to sit still. I've always liked growing. I've always enjoyed learning more and doing more. I'm not the type that can just sit still and do nothing, so if I'm out there, I'm always looking for work.
Where do you get that drive from?
I would probably have to say from my dad. I mean, he was like that. I remember when he had started on his own, he was one of those, he was doing insurance work at the time, and he was always at the insurance companies hustling work. And I learned a lot of that from him. And it was funny, I didn't think at that time, I was doing what I was doing. So everybody that my dad would try to get work from were closer to my age. And I made friends with everybody, but I never thought of it as making friends to get more business. I always thought of it as making friends and enjoying friends. And that's how I always did it. And back then, I didn't realize it, but it was actually helping my dad without even knowing. So now I kind of use the same approach. Everybody that I deal with, we're good friends. We become good friends.
So is that a key to your growth, developing those relationships?
I think it is. Those relationships make a huge difference. I mean,
how do you deal with the government? How do you make a relationship with the government?
The government's a little different.
Okay.
That's a little harder. With the government, of course, we have to bid everything. So the relationships, the only relationships that we have is with the people who we're working with on the job. And those relationships are important because when you bid a job, of course, a lot of these officials, not necessarily does it always go to the low bidder. It'll always go, not always, but sometimes it'll go to the most competent person or the most competent company.
And you've proven that, did you?
Yeah, we have.
And now you're doing commercial buildings too? You're building?
We do a lot of commercial work, but we've done commercial work since 2004. That was one of our main sources of income, was the commercial work. Residential work I stopped doing in about 2004 was my last residential job that I went out looked for to make a profit or to make money on. I still do residential jobs, but I don't make any money on residential jobs. Those residential jobs that I do now are for friends of mine. I help them out now. You know, they've always asked me, you know, can you help us out with this? Sure, and I'll go and help them. And I don't really make a whole lot of money on those, but they're the people who actually help me get the commercial jobs.
Okay. So, what would be if I saw? Could I walk into a newly built building and say this was done by Carrizal?
You probably could. It just depends on where it's at. You know, like I said, you know, one of the things that we do pride ourselves on is quality.
How do you identify quality?
So, for quality work, the way I always done it is, if I walk into a place and we're working on it, I always tell my guys, you need to make sure that job is done as if it was done for yourself. For me, that's what I look at. And when I look at a job, I look at it and say, okay, if this was mine, would I accept this kind of work? And if I don't accept, if it's that type of work that I don't like, that's for me, I'll make the guys redo it.
And you're out there all the time, so you see these projects.
Oh yeah.
So it really has to have your stamp of approval before you turn it over then.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, before we turn over a job, I usually like to walk it and make sure everything's done just right.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And your customer satisfied? How do you know your customer's satisfied?
When they pay me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, usually they're really happy. So most of my customers are all repeat. They're repeat customers.
Okay. So that's what you're doing, is just growing your repeat customer base now. And so how big can you get?
So, how big can we get? That's what I'm trying to find out. How big can we get?
Sure. What limitations are there?
I really don't see any. The only limitations I see right now is making sure that we have the right people, we have enough people and the right people.
Well, that's a challenge for you
now. That's the hardest part.
People.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. I think if I didn't have that limitation, if I had access to good workers, of course, honest workers, I think we could do a lot more.
Have you had dishonest workers?
I've had a few.
You got to catch them in the act of doing something, I guess.
Yeah. But you know, what's nice about our company is everybody that we have, that most of the people that we have been with us for many years. Yeah. So they know how we operate, and we look out after each other. So if they see something that's not right, they'll bring it up.
So what is the biggest thing that's happened to Mr. Carrizal in building your business? What has happened to you?
The biggest thing that's happened to me. think the biggest thing that's happened to me is meeting the people I've met. For instance, yourself. I've met a lot of interesting people, a lot of important people, a lot of people I would have never met if I wasn't in the construction industry. I've always enjoyed being around people.
So you like your work?
Oh yeah, I love my job. The day, like I tell my wife, you know, she tells me, when are you going to retire? I go, the day I get up in the morning and don't want to go to work, then I'm done. So far I've been wanting to go to, I love getting up in the mornings. I love getting up early.
What is it you like
About
going to work? What is it?
What do I like about going to work? Being around people. I like being around people. I enjoy seeing a project from the beginning to the end. But really, I like being around people.
Well, you built an organization, and you can take a project from nothing, from drawings, and build a building.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how to do that, and you put the team together. So you've really built an organization.
Yes.
They can take something from a drawing to completion. You know how to do that.
Right.
It's quite a skill.
And yeah, it is. It wasn't easy. I'll tell you that, it wasn't easy. I've never, blueprint reading, I had to learn it on my own. I didn't go to school for it, so just little by little reading, looking at them and figuring things out, I picked up how to read them.
So you've had to learn.
I had to learn. Everything I've done up to now, I had to learn it.
And you've been successful. So do you see yourself as being successful?
Yes and no. I think I do in a way because of where I've gotten to this point, where I was 30 years ago. I need another step. I just need that other step. And I'm not sure what it is, but there's something missing still.
All right. So success is a process.
Yes.
Good deal. Well, Mr. Carrizal, I appreciate very much your sharing your story. You know, J.Carrizal General Construction is a growing it's a big business, still growing, and you're still at the helm and enjoying it.
Yes, still enjoying it.
Well, I thank you for sharing your story. I've learned a lot about your business, about you, because you built a business. And I appreciate our viewers watching, and I hope they gained a lot from learning from you, your story. And I thank the viewers for taking time of their day to watch our program. And please stay tuned for other programs. We thank you for watching. Have a good day and be healthy. Thank you.